Hey, good evening, everyone. So, without any delay, let's start this. This is season 2 in Android Study Jams program, and in this, we will learn some new topics. And I can say prerequisites for this season are here, and out of these, all are common for the previous one. Only the new thing added here is the basic Kotlin knowledge, in which you need to know how to declare variables and how functions work. That's it. They are enough. And we can learn everything now here. Coming to the objectives, we will learn some introduction topics to object-oriented programming, only some interaction which are required for us. And then we will see about our Android architecture, how the architecture is organized in Android. And then we will see about UI and UX and respective components. Then we will move into making an Android app, a small app which will calculate tip. And then I will introduce you to the material design, which is mainly important for UI. And then I will share you some resources to continue your learning process in this domain. So starting with some object-oriented programming, I can say we need to understand two words here. One is class and one is object. A class, I can say simply a class is a blueprint of something that have some properties. Suppose, let us say different animals. Different animals have some properties in common, but their values might be different. Suppose if I say an elephant and an human, if we measure the length of the legs of elephant and human, legs are common for human as well as elephant, but the length of the legs are different for that. This we call properties. Here, legs are the properties, and the values will come when we look into the object concept. Object, we can say an instance of class. For example, here, assume there is a class with name animal, and animals we know commonly that they have legs, ears, but legs, ears, let me say as ears are common. I can say ear as a property, and ear length or ear color may be different for different animals. So if I'm dealing with a dog, then I can say then I can make a dog as an object. You can consider dog as an object, and then we can initialize the length of the ear or the color of the ear. That means we are making use of one of the properties from the class in our object. This is what object means. And then let me first show this how classes and object work in Kotlin. Here, there is just a main function here, and then I would like to go with the class. We need to start it with the keyword class, and then we need to name the class. Let me say the class is animal, and then you can start with the curly brackets. Here you can do whatever stuff you want, and here I would like to say a function present here. I would like to name it as dog, and I would like to say here I would like to print simply hello dog. And let me make this function as public so that it can be accessed from other classes as well as from our main function. So under creating object, coming to creating object, here is the syntax. First, you need to make it as var or val. You know the difference between var or val? If you don't know, then please go through our previous resume, then you will understand. So here we need to start with var and we need to say the name of the object. Let me say Here I said hello dog, right? So let me say dog, and then we need to make it equal to the name of the class. As the name of the class is animal, I will do this. Now let me call this function. For that, we can use dot operator, and then function name is dog. That's it. When I execute this, you can see here how classes and object work in Kotlin. Here dog is the object and the class name is animal. Now we will see some more topics. Let me say how constructor work in this. For constructors, you can simply make a parenthesis here, and then you can give the name for the variable which you would like to initialize in the class. Let me say here, and you need to specify type of that variable. I would like to make it as a string, and then just a moment. Instead of year, for the simplicity, I'd like to say length, and let me say this is an integer type, and you can use this here with the syntax which we already know. And in order to initialize this variable, you can simply pass the parameter here in this parenthesis from our main function, and it will automatically get initialized. Okay, it's not. Let me say it as var. Okay, now you can see how constructor works here. This is what these are some main things in object-oriented programming in Kotlin. And next thing which we can say that play a very important role is inheritance concept. There are many concepts in object-oriented programming, but coming to this part, for us right now, we need to learn about inheritance concept. I'd like to explain it simply. Assume that there is a cat and a dog, and both belong to the class animal. And for these both animals, there are some things in common, like eyes, mouth, nose, ears. So if we can make these properties in one class called animal class, and then we can make another subclasses, say dog, cat, and we can inherit those properties from that main class, which is animal class. This process of inheriting or making use of our properties which are declared earlier in some other classes is nothing but inheritance. I will explain this with one simple example in Kotlin Playground. Let me use the same. And in order to use inheritance concept, we can say this class as open. That open implies keyword that this class can be inherited, or this class have rights or permissions to get inherited into the other classes. So here I'd like to inherit this class to one more class. Let me say the class name is dog again. Class dog. And I'd like to inherit animal class here. So animal. And here I would like to get the same function into this. For better understanding, let me add one variable. Oops, we removed length there. You can see here, we created another class named dog, and we inherited a property. Let me say this, leg length. I would like to inherit this property. Initially that is 10, but coming to dog, I would like to make use of the same property, which is 10 here. This way we can inherit the properties from the one class to another class in Kotlin. And we need to follow this syntax. So coming to the next one, we have Android architecture here. Android architecture is also referred as a platform architecture because platform here is nothing but Android. To say Android is generally an open source software. If you consider Apple considers iOS. iOS is not an open source software. Anyone cannot contribute to iOS, but coming to Android is open source. Anyone can make developments in that, and anyone can contribute anything useful to Android. This is the one of the reason Android is less costly compared to iOS. And Android is a Linux-based software. And here there are different layers, as you can see in the picture. There's coming to the bottommost layer is a power management. I think everyone is aware of what power management means. And then we have different things such as keypad, audio, displays, key, and Bluetooth, which are generally known things. And then we have drivers above that. Drivers are nothing but which have some code or which make these things work in a proper way they need to do. Suppose if coming to camera, what camera need to do, that will be instructed by the driver made by that manufacturer, that camera manufacturer. And then we have a layer called Linux kernel layer. Coming to this layer, this kernel is something like intermediate between software and hardware. This will handle many functions such as an activity called threading, and this will also be responsible for allocating memory for different activities. Coming to next, we have hardware abstraction layer. In short, people call this as HAL. And in this, we have different things such as audio, Bluetooth, camera, sensors. These are not hardwares, but these are just a layer here which contain APIs. API is nothing but the application programming interface. See, for this, in order to explain this layer in better way, assume an application in view of mobile, a third-party application. Let me say it as a Facebook application, and you would like to capture a picture. You cannot directly instruct the camera to capture the picture. First, you need to come through what are the APIs available in the Android architecture for camera, and then you need to send a call to the API, and then API will make a call as well as a return call back to our application. This way, this layer will work, hardware abstraction layer, in which the APIs interact with the hardware, such as cameras, Bluetooth, like that. And then we have above that native C or C++ libraries layer. And in this layer, one can make applications natively in C or C++ language. Like if someone is using some other software rather than Android Studio to make games, they can use native C or C++ libraries. This is the reason most of the people say C++ is mainly used for making games. And then we have Android runtime layer. This is responsible for all runtime activities in Android. Here, there will be some core libraries included in Android runtime layer. These are responsible for different activities like starting an app or notifying the users, like that. And then we have above that we have one of main layers named Java API framework layer. This layer we use mainly in our Android Studio to make different things happen. We have different managers in this API framework, such as activity, location, package, notifications, like that. Activity is nothing but it will control a single screen. Location will control the GPS, and then packages are nothing but the name, a unique name for that app. And then notification manager will control notifications. And this, in this way, different APIs are framed in different manner so that it will be very easy to make applications. And then above this layer, we have system apps. These are inbuilt apps in Android, such as a dialer or a email, calendar, camera. And making use of these all layers, we are going to make our own custom Android applications. And here we will use Java API framework in order to make custom apps from Android Studio. That is one, and we can also use native C or C++ libraries, but that's not regarding this. That's a quite an advanced thing. Next one, I think people who install Android Studio know more about this. We have something in Android Studio called Android SDK, which is a software development kit. And this kit will include all the classes. We know, right, what classes mean. This Android Studio software development kit will include all those classes which we can use while making Android apps. Well, once I go into Android Studio, you will understand that very easily. And then coming to UI, JDK, yeah, JDK coming to the purpose of using Java, JDK will differ. As we are focusing on Android, then we have Android related classes, and coming to JDK will have more Java related things. Here in Android we have classes, as you can see here. Textview is a class itself. Edit text is a class. And coming to a single button, a button is a big class in Android architecture itself. And let me say what an user interface means. User interface, in short, people call this as UI. UI is simply different screens you see in an app, and different buttons, different progress bars, spinners, and date and time pickers, alerts, and all such things will come under UI controls. And an user who can interact with this and provide some feedback, or who can say how the UI is, how the images are. This is called as user experience, which is in short called as a UX. UX, we can say it will describe about information architecture and the functionality, how good the functionality, and how if you are taking an bank application app, then you can say how good is the functionality during onboarding process. This will UX will also include UI, because user will provide his experience with the UI itself too. Now let's start our main agenda in here. To build a basic app, here I'm going to my Android Studio, and I would like to make a new project here. Here Android Studio will provide different inbuilt activities, and activity is simply the a screen which you can see whenever you open an app, or simply a screen, an activity is, or a current window you can say. And here in the first field, you need to give name for your application. Let me say my application name as TipCal. And here coming to package is a unique name for your applications coming to Android. And you can find this package name in the URL itself, in the URL of your Play Store too. And this is unique for your application in any market, like Google Play Store or Amazon Marketplace, anything like that. And here you need to specify the location where you would like to save your project. And then we can choose Java or Kotlin. But Google recently announced Kotlin as an official language for Android development. That's the reason we learned Kotlin. Coming to minimum SDK, minimum software development kit, we can make this. If we make this version very low, then we can say that most of the mobiles which run even Android version Lollipop support our app, because uh, let me say we have Android 10 now and Android 11 is released, but not for all mobiles. Android 11 will have some new features which are not in Android 10. So if I select directly here Android 11, what will happen means um, only some percent of devices will support, only the devices which have Android 11, and rest of all will have no support for that. So that's the reason choosing the least version will be good. And after choosing this, we can finish this, and this Android Studio will automatically create all the required files for our project. And it will start with a default activity called a main activity. It will take some time to build our project. We have different sections in the Android Studio too, and different sections will control different activities. Will be different sections are different responsible for different things. Like if I you can see here at the bottom, there are different things like version control. Version control is the control system which you can also see this as VCS. If this will sync your data from this to our cloud storage such as a GitHub, and we have a terminal where we can give commands externally, and then we have build where we can observe our building process, our application building process when we compile or when we make this to run. To do is nothing but when we make somewhere in our application to do, then all those to dos will be available here. And I would like to introduce one more thing. It is Android Manifest. To say simply, Android Manifest is simply like a index page of your textbook. You know, right? Index page will contain different names of the chapters, their page numbers, and such details. It's like an overview of whole book. Manifest is similar to that. Here you can find icon location of your app and the name of your app. And not just that, you can also find how many activities are there in your app, how many services are there, and you can observe here intent filter is nothing but it will describe which need to be executed first. I mean, which activity need to be executed first. Here, as you can see, first activity we named it as a main activity, and then we also named the category of this activity, which is main activity, as launcher activity. That means whenever we launch our app, this will be our launcher activity, our first activity that get executed. This is all about manifest. And whenever you make any changes or whenever you add any class, any new activities, automatically this file will get changed. You don't need to come here and make change. This will automatically be changed by Android Studio itself. It's an automatic process. And in the Android Studio, we have two parts. One is the XML part, one is our Kotlin part. XML part is similar to our HTML in web design. You know that HTML is markup there and XML is markup here. You can handle most of the front end works here, like you can add buttons, text, and many things which are related to UI. So let me begin with this. By default, you can see a hello world text in your Android XML file. I would like to remove this now. And we also have different layouts in XML file, or we can say in UI part. And right now the layout which I'm using is constraint layout. If you'd like to know about more layouts, you can refer to Android Studio documentation. Now let me go with this layout, and I would like to give padding to some 18 dp. Here there are different measurements you can use. There are units such as dp. You can also use pixels. This way you can also use inches, Let me use dp because it's most commonly used. And I would like to say one more thing, difference between padding and a border. Padding is a space which you are adding inside, and border is the space which you are using outside the particular element. And coming to that, you can observe one thing here. Here this bracket, here this arrow is closed, not just this way. Let me explain this with one more element. Let me start the, okay, this app is a tip calculator, right? So we need a field which will take your input from user, and let me say that input is total order amount. So for that, I have one thing here called edit text. Now I'm taking edit text, and here I need to say the width of the layout, the width of this element, this edit text. Uh, Let me say I just need a 20 dp length for this. 20 dp is just this much. Okay, this is very small. Let me extend this later. Here you can see it's showing us two things. One is wrap content, one other one is match parent. Wrap content implies that it will match automatically to the length of the content. How much the length is, it will automatically match to that. Match parent implies that it will stick to the edges of the app screen or the screen. You can see if I say match parent, I said height as match parent, right? So it will occupy full height from here to here. This is nothing but match parent. So as this should not be done, I will say height as some 30 dp. So height is now 30. That means this much. This is not much large. So let me increase it to 50. 50 is this much. And coming to width, I would like to say this as match parent. This can match to these edges because it's width, right? So we have no issue if this is matching with these two. And then coming to, as we are dealing with edit text, here I would like to inform one more thing. You can use a slash followed by this close bracket. I mean, a greater than symbol. You can observe a difference between this and the main outer thing. Here, like in HTML, where we use something like a paragraph. In HTML, we use like this, right? This is similar to the main one here, the constraint layout. But we use this type only when there is a need of adding something inside it. So here, this constraint layout is our main thing. This is occupying our full screen. You can see here layout width is matching parent and height is also match parent. That means this layout is occupying this full screen. And within this screen, we are going to add edit text. So when you are adding something in which there is nothing to add further, that means in edit text, we don't need to add anything further, right? In that case, we can simply close this as using this symbol, this slash followed by this greater symbol. And then you can see here it's showing some red mark. In order to get what it means, we can simply hit alt and then enter. It will show. What's wrong? It's saying missing constraints. Constraints constraints will explain where this layout should be or where this UI component should get placed. So I would like to explain this in depth. Before that, I would like to add a hint to this. I will add a hint as enter amount. Now I'd like to zoom this and explain you. Here we have this edit text, and here you can see some bubbles. And this one, which I am focusing right now, is called start, and this one is called end. This is called top, and this is called bottom. Now we need to adjust this element in our UI with these keywords, and we can denote them in our XML. Let me do that so that you can understand. Now I would like to say uh, start. You can also see suggestion here, start to start off. That means this start need to be linked to the start of what it is asking us. We can see to the start of parent. You can also see here this one got locked with this parent. Similarly, we need to lock this end with this parent, right? So I'm going to do that. End to end of parent again. And then we need to lock this top to the top of this parent, right? So top to the top of parent. That's it. Now you can see this one's stuck here itself. This will not jump here and there. And you can also observe this error gone away. And here in XML, you may need to give a unique ID for every UI component we are using. For that, you can use this syntax, Android ID, and then you need to give a name for this. As it is a tip amount, I would like to say this as tip AMT. You can give any name you wish. Okay, now this is done. Now I would like to add the percentage of tip user would like to give. For that, we have one thing similar to this constraint layout, as we need to show options, different options to the user. Then we can use one thing called radio group. Radio group is group of radio buttons. I will show radio buttons to you here, and it is asking for us the position where we need to place. No, not right now. Later we will assign the constraints. Now we need to define the height and the width of this. I would like to give height as match to parent, and I would like to give width to matching parent, and would like to give height to some 100 dp. Let me test how much it is. 100 dp is this much. Okay, let me enlarge it. 150 dp. 150. Okay, this looks sufficient. Let me try. Coming to radio group, it's not just a single radio button, right? We need to provide options. So we do have different things. So for this, we need to use this symbol, and it will get automatically assigned by another closing tag here, by another closing radio group tag. Now we need to specify where we need to place this. You can see this one placed in a bad way. This one got placed on edit text. Now we need to change this position to position we need. So I would like to again specify start to the start of the parent. That means this one need to stick to this. So start to the start of parent again. Even n need to be with the parent, right? So n to the end of parent. Now This top, I would like to place this here below this edit text. So I would like, what I can say here is the top of this need to be assigned to the bottom of edit text. So edit text, we gave its ID as tip amount, right? So here we need to specify this. You can see it's getting aligned automatically. Now we can add radio buttons with this. For radio buttons, we have one more thing called radio button. Let me give a name even to this group. I would like to give a name like percentage. Just I would like to give it as pers. Here I need to specify width again. Let me say this as match parent, and even this one to not 100. Let me say this just 50 dp. Okay. As we are not adding anything further to radio button, we can simply close this as like this, like edit text syntax. Now I just need to give a text to this, right? So text, I say this as 10% tip. 10% tip. And I would like to give it an ID 10. Similarly, I would like to do three more buttons here. Let's say button 2, button 3, and you need to change names here. Initially I use 10, let me use 20, and change the name accordingly. Yeah. Now, let me make one more thing here. By default, nothing got selected, right? Let me try making one button selected by default. Yeah, we can use this syntax, and I would like to make 10% as default one, checked one. You can see in the layout itself, 10% got checked in automatically or by default. You can change this later. Now, what I would like to do next is simply I would like to calculate the tip amount, the total tip amount I would like to display. So in order to calculate that, I would like to add a button below this radio group. So for button, even for button, you can use this one, button. Simple. And let me first give one name to this button. I would like to give a name as calculate. And then coming to width of the button, I would like to say this to match parent. Okay, now it's matching to the parent. And then I would like to specify some height. Let me say 60 dp. As we are not including anything inside this button, we can close this right away. Okay, now you can see the position of that button is not in correct place. We need to adjust its position. I would like to place this button below this checked buttons, I mean the radio group. So in order to do that, again I need to say this start need to focus again to this start, and this end need to again focus to this end, but the top of this need to be below this, right? So we can say start to the bottom of this check group. That will make it to get placed below that check group or the radio group. So I would like to say that start to the start of parent, and then end is also to the end of parent, and then the top of this need to be the bottom of radio group, right? So radio group, and what we gave pass. Let me check name of radio group which we gave earlier. Okay, it's this one. I will copy and paste this here. Yeah, now it got aligned in the correct position. Now I would like to add some text to this button. We can do that by making text, and here we can add our text. Calculate. That's it. And then what we need to do again, we need to display the tip amount, right? So for that we can use Textview. Textview is also available for us. Simply you can do Textview, and again I would like to match this to parent. Height I would just like to give it as just 40 dp, and I would like to give name as final tip. Now initially I would like to make this test view to display some random amount. Let me say $0. $0. And even I can increase size of this text view. I'll increase this to 10 dp. Not sufficient. 100 is very more. 50. Yeah, this is better. Now I'd like to position this text view below this button. So for that I would like to use again thing which we used previous, which is start and to the start of the parent, and also the end of this to the end of parent, and finally where we'd like to place, we'd like to place below button, right? So what we can say, the top of this text view need to position to the bottom of that button. The button name we gave as a calculate. So calculate. Yes, now this one got positioned here, and let me increase height of this to the text size so that it will fit. Yes, now this is fitting here. Let me increase some, but 50, 60. And also here we can change color of this text. Color, text color, and again I will give blue color. Okay, coming to the markup part, everything is done. Now we need to go for the coding part. Coming to coding part, first what we need to do, we need to get instances, or we need to get the unique IDs of all these UI components in our code, right? So for that we can use one latest method called view binding. There is one more alternative which is a whole method, but for this view binding method we need to go to our Gradle file. Gradle is something that will help us in building our app from debugging to even error detection, everything. we can learn more about Gradle in Android documentation. So for now, you need to go to Gradle in app module, and then here you can see Android. Under Android, you have different things. As we are, as I'm telling about a feature called view binding, which will bind these views to our code. I would like to enable that feature. So to enable that, I need to say build features, and then here I need to specify view binding, and this to true. And then you need to sync this code with your project. Wait for some time until this get completed. And meanwhile, I would like to explain one more thing. Here you can see first letter is small and next letter is capital. This type of style is generally we call this as camel case style, in which if we can use a capital letter where we need word separation. In most of the coding languages, we use this style. Okay, now this is successful. Now we can go to our coding part, and here let me say a variable. Let me start with a variable, and I would like to save it as a bind. And then here you need to specify your current activity. As you are now in main activity, you can say activity main binding. Okay, now actually we need to initialize this to something, as we are using it some globally, but we don't have anything to initialize this right now. So I would like to specify this as late initialization. When we make this as late initialization, definitely you need to initialize this somewhere in our app or in our activity. Otherwise, our app will crash. So we name this variable as bind, right? So let us initialize that here. Bind is equals to activity main binding, and here not a view we are binding layout, right? So we need to use inflate method, and then we need to pass simply the layout inflator. This will automatically bind our XML file to our Kotlin. Now we need to set the content view of our main Kotlin activity to this bind. So here I can simply say as bind root. Now we successfully binded this. That means we successfully linked our XML and our Kotlin file. Now we can proceed with our next coding step. So what we need to do, whenever user click on calculate tip, all the action need to be done, right? So first let me deal with that button. So let me say button calculate cal. Let me make it as cal. As it is a type of button, I would like to specify it as a button. And what is this button now? We can get it from binding, right? Bind dot. We need to specify the name of that button. We name this in our XML here as calculate. Where is this? Yeah, calculate, right? So we can use the same ID here, calculate. That's it. Now this cal variable will hold the ID of this button. Now we can perform whatever we need. You can say cal dot. We need to set what need to be done upon clicking this. So here I would like to make a new function for clear understanding. So cal tip. I would like to make a new function like this, and I would like to add that function. Yes. Now I would like to implement all the stuff required. So first what we need to do, first we need to take the total amount from user from the text view. So let me say that that value as total amount, total AMT equals where can we get from where, yeah, from this edit text, right? And ID for this is tip.amount. So we need to get that. We can get this by bind.tip.amount. Now we need to make this to string and then we can convert it again to double, or we can, let me check whether we can do directly or not. To string, yeah, and then let me check to double. Yes, yeah, it's possible. Now what we did, we took input from the user, we converted it to string, and then we converted it to double. Now we have the value total amount in the format of a double, so that we can perform our mathematical operations. And next thing which we need to know, the option user selected here, 10%, 20 or 30%. So to get that, what we can do is we need the ID of that selection, right? So for simplicity, we can use this uh, percentage. So let me say perc, and if we can use when here. So when here, what we need to get the ID of that button group, right? I mean that radio button group. So here I'm getting. Let me do this separately. Where check equals bind dot percentage dot check radio button ID. This will give us the ID of the button which was clicked by user. So now we got this ID. Now I'd like to mention this in this when statement. When statement is similar to switch statement, which we know already. So yeah. Now I would like to store the percentage value in this perceive variable. So to do that, what I can do is, okay, for when statement we can simply use else to. So what we have options, we have 10%, 20 and 30%. For that, in order to access IDs, we also have one more thing here. Each ID will get assigned to an unique integer in our project. So let me say for 10%, if user selected 10%, R, we can get that as R dot ID dot, here you need to specify the name of that element. As I said, it is 10, here 10. So if user selected 10, then what I need to do? I need to store, it is 10, right? So for 10%, 10 divided by 100, so 0.1 something. So would like to give 0.10. This value 0.10 will get stored in PRC. And you can see by default, Android Studio made this as double. This PRC type as double. Okay, let us proceed with next thing. We have r.id.20, right? So 20. So if checked ID is 20, then make that value as 0.20. We have only one left, so we can include it as in else part, which is 30%. So 0.30. Okay, now we got percentage, we got total amount. So these are enough, right, to calculate tip. So to get the tip amount now, what we can do, or no, we can simply do this. Total amount equals to how much? Percentage into total amount. Oh, sorry. Let's say this is total tip. Total tip. That's it. Now we got total tip here. Now what we need to do, we need to make this total tip displayed here. So we gave this ID as final tip, right? Now we are going to change this $0 to this new tip. So to do that, we can simply do this way. Bind dot final tip equals total tip. Oh, let us do this in differently by declaring the variable so that it will be more meaningful. Where txt equals, this will say this view as a text view. Now I would like to do rest of the things. Dot text a dollar sign followed by total tip, and that's it. Now let us test our app. So to do this, I have an AVD in my PC. AVD is nothing but Android virtual device. You can also do this with an Android device if you have, using an option called USB debugging. So for this time, let me use AVD. Now I'm going to open my emulator. This will, and the tasks which are running here at the bottom are building tasks. This is handled automatically by Grill. You don't need to do anything, and if there is any error in any part of your whole project, it will be implied here. Then you can quickly navigate to that part and you can fix that error. This will take time based on many factors. So let's wait for that. And meanwhile, let's do one more thing. Later we can reinitialize this process. Okay, let this one continue. Okay, as this is our first time, this will take some more time. Meanwhile, I would like to introduce one more thing to you. It is called material guidelines. So for that, you need to visit this URL material.io. You can see in our app, everything is not looking good. You can observe button which we have last time. That's not looking much good, right? So in order to add some more interesting UI features like a refill effect or color store buttons, different colors or different styles, we have something called material. And for that, we need to visit this URL. And here you can see all the material things which we have. I'd like to go through this. Here we are going to develop Android, right? So here we need to choose Android. And then here it will ask which one, Android in Java or Kotlin. As we are dealing with Kotlin, you can check this, Kotlin. And this will take you to Code Labs where you can learn all about material designs. First thing will be regarding setting up material design to your app, and then it will explain the rest of things too. It will explain how to make text field in different styles like this style, and also like how you can make buttons into different styles. As you can see, cancel and next button here. This all things will come under material designs. So now I would like to just go with this.
Remute on this చెప్పు.
Abhilash?
హలో హరి.
Yeah, okay. There is some issue with my ID and emulator. Okay, anyhow, I adjusted in another way.
Yeah, maybe it's better you continue with the session. Just leave the code hard.
Abhilash, your voice is not clear.
Continue with the session. Just leave the app and continue with the session.
Yeah, that's it. It's almost done. I am going to project it from my mobile. Just open the screen. And
I didn't get you. I just lost you a couple of moments ago. Did you told anything?
okay, now what I did is I installed that app in my mobile as there is some issue with my Android virtual device. Here is that. Okay. And here initially it's asking us to enter amount. Let me say amount is 100 rupees and tip is 20%. Then it's going to calculate tip. You can see 20% of 100 is nothing but a $20, right? And if we select 10%, it will give us $10. 30% is nothing but $30. So that's done. This is the way we can make a simple app, and this is a simple tip calculator app. Few more things which you can observe here is you can see this button is not much beautiful, and here this field in which we are entering 100 is also not looking much beautiful. So for that we need to make use of material guidelines in order to make our UI look much attractive. And close. And that's it with that. And here what the change I did is here I specify the type of input as decimal, as a number or a decimal number type. And one more thing here I forgot is we are getting edit text, okay, but we need to say that first we need to take text from it and then we need to convert it as string. So I forgot this text here. And one more tip I would like to give is in order to know what are present in that class, you can use one shortcut. You can press and hold control and then you need to click on that respective class name to get what are the contents in that class. So let me say amount. For amount, as this is just a variable, it is showing this one. But let me set for one more thing, some complicated thing. So here, this is a button, right? So button. I will go for one more thing, B, and I would like to make this type as button. And you can see what are inside button by clicking on this. Yeah. Here the button class, the entire button class will get expanded in Android Studio by pressing Control simultaneously by left clicking that class name. Here you can see what a button can do in this context. And there are some cases in which we can see user input will be nothing or null. That case we need to solve this also, yeah, otherwise the app will crash. So we need to first check whether this string is empty or there is some content. If there is some content, then we can proceed. Otherwise, we need to exit, right? We need to display user that nothing is there in this. Please enter some amount. So we can do that by using simple if else. If amount dot equal to this, this is nothing, right? So if amount equal to nothing, then what we can say, we can display a toast to user. So toast is nothing but a small message which you can see most of the time when you open a Google Meet, and when you go back to any other app, you can see to return to Google Meet, come back to the background apps. So that is called toast. I would like to name my toast as text, and this is a type of toast. And initially, I need to give the context where I'm making this toast. As I'm making in main activities itself, I gave instance as class, I mean this, and then I need to give what I would like to display, the character sequence or the string. I would say enter any amount. And the next parameter which we need to give to this function make text is the duration of that. So I would like to give a long duration. Okay, then what if there is something? If there is something, else will get executed. That's it. This way we can reduce one error, and that's it for this. And if you would like to make this app more beautiful, then you need to make use of material guidelines, which I mentioned earlier. There are these about material design, and then you can also continue learning the process of making some simple apps by going through these links. That's it. If you'd like to share your experience with this, you can use hashtag #AndroidStudyJams. And also we have one Instagram page for our DSC lab. You can also mention that. And if there are any questions, you can ask.
No questions for the moment. Sure.
Vilash, your voice is not clear. Hello. Okay. So that's it. And I also request your suggestions for our next season.
Take it easy, Sampra.
Thank you.
Bye.